إبراهيم تعلن إدارة العمليات العسكرية عن تحرير محافظة القنيطرة بالكامل ومدينة البعث. الله أكبر! الله أكبر! الله أكبر! الله أكبر!
God is great indeed. Here we go. The moderate rebels have gained some kind of a victory. Why do they call them the moderate rebels? I don't know. You might be celebrating. Lots of people are. You're not alone. Here's one post I saw on Facebook today from a supporter of the rebels. Isn't that the guy that was the leader of the people that call themselves the Party of God on the floor? I can't remember what happened to him. Anyway, let's hear from Piers Morgan. I wish it was Piers Corbyn, but it's Morgan.
Let me just start with your overview of what is happening in Syria and how significant you think it is.
I think it's interesting, as you pointed out, the U.S. Calls HTS a terrorist group, but obviously the U.S. is part of what's happening these days. Jake Sullivan said, well, yes, it's a terrorist group, but it is giving Assad a run for his money. Wink, wink. This is a U.S., Israel, Turkey operation. It is part of Netanyahu's long-term game plan that goes on for 30 years to overthrow governments throughout the Middle East that back the Palestinian cause. And they did apparently catch both the Russians and the Iranians and the Syrians off guard. What seems to be the case, but I'm sure that this is an Israel, U.S., and Turkish operation. Turkey has its own issues in this with the Kurds in Syria. For Israel, this is standard fare. Overthrow governments in the neighborhood, expand the war, draw the United States in, and the U.S. Is always available at Israel's behest to play games and expand wars. And that's what we're seeing right now. From what we can gather of sporadic and, of course, very incomplete reports, I don't think that this is going to topple Assad. There are reinforcements pouring in from Iraq, probably from Iran, probably the Syrian forces as well internally are regrouping after having been caught by surprise. But this is essentially at the core a Netanyahu operation. What this starts, and it's really fascinating to go back, it starts in 1996 with Netanyahu, who wrote a book called Fighting Terrorism. And the thesis of the book is quite straightforward and very dangerous. He says, you know, there's Hamas, there's Hezbollah, they oppose Israel. It's not good for us to fight them directly. That won't work. What we need to do is topple the governments that back them. So what we need is regime change throughout the Middle East. And he actually gave a long list of 7 countries that included Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, Somalia, Sudan, and Lebanon. And systematically, the United States has done Netanyahu's bidding for almost 30 years now, going to war with every one of them, except for the big one that Netanyahu so much longs for, which is the war directly between the...
Right, well, that's one way of looking at it, but maybe this will be a positive change. Maybe there'll be peace in the region now. The new leaders might be friendlier towards their neighbours.
معكم غريب شحادات لقناة كان 11 الإسرائيلية. أعزائي جيراننا أحبتنا في دولة إسرائيل الصديقة، أكلمكم الآن والفرحة تغمرني وتغمر كل أهالي درعا، والفرحة تغمر كل أهالي حوران بعد زوال هذا النظام، بعد زوال 40 عام وهو جاثي على صدورنا، بعد زوال 40 عام من الاضطهاد. أكلمكم بلساني ولسان كل إنسان حر في درعا وسائر سوريا، والمرحلة القادمة ستكون مرحلة وئام ومرحلة محبة ومرحلة سلام مع دولة إسرائيل. لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، وجود للمحبة، وجود للسلام. نعم، أن تدخل إسرائيل وتعمل استثمارات.
There we go. Invest, invest, invest. Lots of friendly invitations there. Let's hear from our friend Craig Murray. He knows lots about this sort of thing.
There is no doubt that the so-called rebel forces attacking the government in Syria are creatures of the United States and of Israel. There's been congressional testimony in the United States openly that the United States had spent more than $500 million on the Syrian rebel forces. And that was some years ago. It's gone up since then. Israel has provided medical and other support facilities to them perfectly openly. The United States yesterday was attacking from the air forces coming from Iraq to try to help the government of Syria, while Israel was attacking the links between Syria and Lebanon, again with bombing from the air. And the forces facing the rebels, the Syrian Arab Army, the National Army of Syria, has been bombed relentlessly by Israel for more than a year. So there's no doubt whatsoever that the rebels are backed by the CIA and backed by Israel. And that's what's happening here. It's an attempt by the Americans and the Israelis, aided by the Turks, to overthrow the regime in Damascus in order to block assistance flowing through Syria to Lebanon.
Thanks, Craig. That's what he thinks. Just in the interest of balance and fairness, I am going to share with you a quote from Eliyahu Yossian, former member of Israeli Unit 8200 military intelligence. And he actually thinks it's better for Israel if Bashar al-Assad clings on to power. Do you really believe that? Have a look.
سوريا به هنهجت اسد زمیگراش اینترسیم شل اسرائیل ترکیا روسیا و ایران شکل خود مشخل کیوون شلو
אז מה זה אומר לגבינו? איך זה יכול להשפיע עלינו?
משפיע עלינו או לא?
איפה אנחנו באמצע?
אחד, אני אישי בעד קיומו של אסד כי הוא אויב חלש ואויב חלש משרת האינטרסים שלי אף אחד לא מבטיח לאחרי נפילת אסד מי יגיע יכול להיות אויב יותר סורר מהמשטר האיראני מי יכול להבטיח לי עכשיו אני יודע יש לי אסד חלש שכל שני וחמישי אני יכול לתקוף את סוריה בתיאום מול רוסיה וללא שום איום אז אחד אליהו יוסיאן במצב הנוכחי בעד קיומו של אסד.
Thanks for watching. Click the next video to watch another great video. Thanks.